Hello and welcome back to another Armano product video. My name is Urban and today we are going to take a look and also install the Armano index bearing cam block. This comes in two versions, one for the Dillon 750 machines which we have here and also for the 650 machine which we will see later. Both of these cam blocks are an upgraded version of our old unit and feature a super smooth bearing and also a primer depth stop. This upgrade part replaces the original steel cam with a bearing equipped cam that smooths out shell plate rotation. It smooths the index action and also eliminates the need for grease in this part of the machine. It also offers a primer depth adjustment screw, so every primer will be seated to the same exact depth regardless of how hard you press the handle. This will result in super consistent primer depth across your entire reloading session. So why do you need this? This is an essential upgrade for Dillon 650 or 750 machine because the original cam results in very harsh shell plate movement that can cause spilling powder from your cases and also produces excess wear and tear on your machine, especially the indexer ring, which is quite prone to misfunction or break. The bearing ensures super smooth, consistent and controllable shell plate rotation, and the primer depth adjustment screw ensures that the primers are seated deep enough and consistent throughout your reloading session. This is especially important in the case of the 750 upgrade because the original Dillon 750 primer punch spring does not allow for consistent and deep enough primer seating. This is why in the 750 set we also include a upgraded primer punch spring that allows you to seat primers also below flush if needed. Let's check what do you get in the box for the 650 version and 750 version of this product. Inside the Dillon 650 machine we get the pre-assembled index bearing cam block and we include two washers and two mounting screws as this block is thicker than the original and you need longer screws. Inside the Dillon 750 you get the pre-assembled Armano index bearing cam block and the primer punch upgraded spring. Now that we have unboxed, let's check out how to install it on the 750 machine and also on the 650 machine. Now let's check out how to install the 750 version. We will start with the primer punch spring and then also the indexer block itself. For this you will need a 3/32 and 5/32 Allen key. Okay, to install the primer punch spring we need to disassemble this primer mechanism, first by removing the primer actuator rod and then by pulling the handle down. We can pull the primer mechanism back and remove the spring that tensions in the bottom. When this is done, we remove these two bottom screws and be careful because you have also a washer on each screw so we can access the primer punch spring. Now we can simply lift off this mechanism and here we have the primer punch spring that we will change. Hold down the primer punch itself and release the spring by loosening this 3/32 Allen key and the whole mechanism will simply slide out. Put the old spring out and the new spring in. Insert back and now you will need to put pressure to compress the inner rod as far as it goes to the carrier before tightening this. So compress this as far as you can and tighten the bolt as far as it goes. Now that we have changed the primer punch spring, we can reassemble in the reverse order. So we put this on the carrier and reinstall the primer tube just like this. We install the washer and the nuts, 1, and 2, and tighten. We can also pull down the tool head, so we make sure that the carrier of the primer punch is exactly lined up with the hole in the shell plate carrier. And now we can tighten these two nuts, reinstall the spring, and also reinstall the activator rod by pulling it over the two wheels, and this part of the installation is now done. Make sure everything moves freely and you are set. We have installed the primer punch spring. Now let's install the cam. First, we move the shell plate into its top position and loosen these two 5/32 keys. Make sure to see where the position is, so you will have a good starting reference when you mount the Armano index. Remove the bolts, 1 and 2, and the original cam block is out. You have a channel that sits on this protrusion here, so when putting it on, like I mentioned, just start with the same data point as the old one, so you have a good starting reference. Hand tighten the screws, and now when you lower the shell plate, check the shell plate clocking. Every station needs to be centered on the die for proper ammunition production. You can set this if you need to advance the shell plate clock, then you can move the bearing block away from you toward the end of the machine, and if you need to retard the clocking, then you can move the bearing block a little bit towards you, towards the user, the front of the machine. When the clocking is as you need it to be, you can finally tighten the screws, and this part is set. The other setting you have is this screw here, which controls the primer depth. This acts as the bottom stop of the machine, like this, and in turn sets the primer depth in your case. If you need your primer to sit deeper, then you need to rotate this in clockwise, so it will lower, and if you need to set the primer less deep, then you rotate this screw counterclockwise. When your desired setting is achieved, just simply lock your setting in by tightening this retaining screw. And now you are all set to reload. Now let's mount the bearing block on the Armano 650 machine, but before I need to warn you that the older 650 machines do not have this ledge. This means our camming block may not fit correctly. The removing of the original one is the same process as I have shown on the Dillon 750, and now we will mount the Armano camming block on the machine exactly the same as we did on the 750. We also take care of the position, so we have a good reference point to start clocking in the shell plate rotation. For me, it is practically till the end of its movement, like this, so towards the back of the machine. The setup of the clocking mechanism is exactly the same as in the 750, and also the primer depth adjustment screw is adjusted in the same way. So if we recap very shortly, when you have the correct position of the cam, the movement of the cam toward the back of the press will advance the shell plate, and if you move it towards the user, it will retard the shell plate clocking, so the center of the shell plate when stopped. Adjusting the primer height, so if you turn it clockwise, you will make the primer sit deeper in the case, and if you rotate counterclockwise, you will make the primer sit more out of the case, less deep. The same process, remove the retaining screw, adjust, and when done, tighten the retaining screw and of course the mounting screws. Machined from billet aluminum, these index bearing cam blocks offer super smooth shell plate rotation and also an adjustable primer sitting depth. They also minimize friction on the indexer ring, and in the case of the 750 upgrade, you get included a upgraded spring for the primer punch. If you want a cleaner and smoother index operation and also an adjustable primer sitting depth, the Armano index bearing cam blocks with primer depth stop is a simple but super high impact upgrade for your Dillon 650 or 750 machines. If you like the product, you can find it on our web shop armanov.ltd, and I will also post a link in the description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the Armanov YouTube channel for more reloading accessories and upgrades. You can also leave a comment in the comment section, and please follow us on our social media pages, Facebook and Instagram. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.